Hi, good afternoon. My name is Julia Abrantes with the Las Comadres and Friends National Latino Book Club, and we're here at the International Latino Book Awards ceremony in Los Angeles, and I'm interviewing today Hector La Fosse.
La Fosse.
La Fosse, okay, about his book, which is titled No Regrets, The Journey. Thank you for being with us here this afternoon.
So good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell our readers and our watchers a little bit about your story?
Okay, well, this book, it's a book of coming of age and redemption. It's a story about the secrets and removing the mask. It was about that little boy that went through tragedy, had to suffer a lot in life to come to where he is today. So it's a story full of hope. It's a deep message, and it's actually resonating with a lot of people. So it's impacting.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. What inspired you to write this?
Well, when I was a teenager, I found myself in a very dark era of my life. I didn't have no reading skills, so I thought. And I read this book for the very first time. The very first book I ever read was a book called Down These Mean Streets by P.D. Thomas. And so after reading the book, I said, wow, it's not that I didn't know how to read because I understood the whole book. It's just that I didn't want to read and I had a mental blockage. So from that moment on, that book inspired me to continue reading. And I read, without education, I started to read all these self-help books, psychology, philosophy. I mean, I really got deep because that book really opened me up to wanting to learn and to change. But more so, what it did was that it planted the seed. At that very moment, I told myself that one day I would tell my story. What I didn't know was that 45 years later, it would give fruit to this book.
Well, that's wonderful. And, you know, sometimes people can tell their story right away. Other times it takes continuing through the process, through your change and your growth, before you're able to share your story. After your readers read this, what do you want them to leave with? What part of this do you want to stay with them?
Well, let me just add a little to that. When I came around 45 years later to knowing that this is what I wanted to do, it just didn't happen. It wasn't something I planned. It was something I totally forgot about. And in a moment of prayer, that all came back to me as if I was reliving that moment when I first told myself that I was going to write my story. In that very moment, I was as if I was back there, visualizing that little kid that told himself that. So the book, it's not only impactful, but it comes from my spirit. So it's that deep that 45 years later, I learned what my purpose was.
Wow.
And that was it. And so I had to sacrifice a whole lot in order to follow the spiritual conscience that I felt. And that's how all that came about. But what I want to tell today's youth is, given what I just said, that no matter how long it takes, never stop dreaming. Keep the dream alive, because I didn't know that this was going to happen to me. But I still had a dream in the back of my mind.
Wow.
And so, although it took me that long, it doesn't have to take the youth or anyone else that long to realize that you have a purpose. Just ask yourself that question when you find yourself down, when you find yourself hopeless. What is my purpose? What am I here to do on this earth?
Right.
What am I going to leave to know that I was here?
Right.
So I didn't know anything about legacies. I'm now leaving the legacy for my grandchildren.
Absolutely.
And everyone else that wants an inspirational story of hope and motivation. So again, never, ever stop dreaming. This is the way, the dream. It starts out with the dream and fantasizing.
Absolutely.
You gotta fantasize, but be realistic. Never give up, no matter how hard things get.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's my message.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, and good luck today at the awards.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. See you guys soon.